Hey everyone, welcome once again to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. I'm your host, Aaron Bloxel, with my co-host, Mr. Matthew Balzer. Today, lots of news in the NHL as we get ready for the eve of training camps, which start tomorrow. And we're going to lead it off with a massive trade between the Ottawa Senators and the San Jose Sharks. Matt, why don't you bring us up to speed?
All right, yeah. So the trade that we were waiting for all summer and leading up to the training camp has finally happened. Erik Karlsson has been traded to the San Jose Sharks, along with prospect Francis Perron, who was a seventh-round pick in 2014, to the Sharks for Chris Tierney, Josh Norris, Rudolph Balcers, and 3 conditional picks, which I'll quickly go over. There's a conditional second-round pick in 2019. That pick it is between the Sharks have their own second-round pick and the Florida Panthers second-round pick. So whichever one's higher by the end of the year, that's the one that Ottawa gets. 2020 conditional first-round pick. I believe that goes if the Sharks miss the playoffs in 18-19, it will be the first round pick will be in 2019, or but unless if that doesn't happen, it will be in 2020, the first round pick, and a conditional second round pick in 2021, which could potentially become another first round pick if the Sharks reach the Stanley Cup final in this year's season. So Josh Norris, getting back to him, he was a first-round pick in 2017, another young center prospect. And Rudolph Balcers was a fifth-round pick in 2015. He had 48 points in 67 games in the American Hockey League and had 4 goals and 6 points playing for Latvia at the World Championships. So he's a prospect with a little bit more upside, but all in all, the Sharks win this trade. Not having to give up a whole lot. Like I thought, when I first was waiting for the details, that they'd have to give up a guy like Timo Meier or Thomas Hertl. But Chris Tierney, at most, he'll develop into a second-line center. But yeah, for Doug Wilson to get Evander Kane and Erik Karlsson in a span of just half a year, basically, is very impressive.
Well, for me, San Jose definitely wins the trade. But the biggest thing is for the amount of contract length that Erik Karlsson has, if for some reason San Jose is not able to tie him down for a lengthier contract extension, basically San Jose, I think, has given up not a lot of players up front, but they have of course given up a few prospects, and Tierney is a decent regular everyday player, but those draft picks can turn into something that could harm the Sharks down the road. But assuming they, extend Karlsson, which I think they will, this is a great trade for them. They now have 2 Norris Trophy winners on their defense. They have Erik Karlsson, Brent Burns, Marc-Edouard Vlasic. They're starting to sound like they're a pretty good team at that back end. And I say that tongue-in-cheek. Because before we went on air, we talked about if Karlsson and Burns are both right-handed shots playing the right side, the third right-handed shooting defenseman that they go with this year, I feel sorry for him. He's not going to get any ice time. But even the power play combinations that this team can come up with, with Kane, Pavelski, Joe Thornton, and now Burns and Karlsson, it's going to be pretty slick, pretty dynamite to watch. San Jose's right now, in my opinion, become Stanley Cup contender, and Ottawa, they said they kept true to their word. They're starting to rebuild. They're bringing in lots of pieces, and I'm curious, Matt, do you think that Mark Stone or Matt Duchene are now on their way out the door?
I know, yeah. Like Matt Duchene, I think he had that huge thing going on with Colorado last year where he did not want to be there. You could see in the pictures or whatever that they took before the season that he was not happy. And going from one rebuilding franchise to another, I think he's going to wait until free agency at the end of the year. This will be the biggest contract that Duchesne will get when he becomes a free agent at the end of this year. So I think he could be traded. And Mark Stone, I think Ottawa will try to keep him. But I think it just depends on these players if they want to stick around for a rebuild. But with it just being just a mess in Ottawa, it's just like I would want to get out of there as fast as I could.
Well, Pajot has done just that. Gabriel Pajot, we laughed about before on air, is out 4 to 6 months with an injury, and I think it's called Ottawa-itis. Other big news today, there was a big signing out of Dallas. Why don't you fill us in on all those details?
Yeah, so Tyler Seguin finally got his contract extension with the Dallas Stars. 8 years, $78.8 million. That's a $9.85 million cap hit. $55 million of that contract is just in bonuses. This will make him the highest paid player on the Dallas Stars, just a little bit more than Jamie Benn, who's making $9.5 million a year. And this contract really came about pretty quickly after Seguin came out with some comments that he was pretty disappointed that he hadn't gotten a new contract heading into the year, since he was going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of this coming season. And since he said those, him and his agent and general manager Jim Nill really got things together and got that contract done before a training camp, so that way all of the distractions could go away from there.
Well, the bonus for Dallas is they've got a lot of key pieces now signed to long-term contracts. The negative is they got to find supporting players now for all that talent that they've signed, so it can't just be the Benn and Seguin show every single night. Yeah, I think it's a good signing for Dallas to secure Seguin long-term. I'm pretty happy with that, and I'm sure Seguin is out somewhere tonight celebrating and quite happy with that too. Why don't you fill us in on some of the captain news and a few of the notes that you have about the NHL's comments and remarks from today?
Oh, right. Yeah. So there's 2 new captains announced today. The Arizona Coyotes gave Oliver Ekman-Larsson the captaincy. That's the perfect fit there in Arizona. I don't think there would be any other choice. A long-time vet and just amazing defenseman for them. And the Carolina Hurricanes surprisingly announced Justin Williams as their team captain. He's 36 years old, so he's getting up there in age. But I think between his relationship and new head coach Rod Brindamore, there was that going for him. And he's been around the league for many years. I still think, I forget if he has only 1 year left on his contract or 2, which makes it an intriguing decision just because you don't know if he'll be back at the end of this season. But for veteran leadership there, like outside of Jordan Staal and maybe Justin Falk, both of those guys were named assistant captains. There weren't many other choices to go with in Carolina.
But those 2 you mentioned were both assistant captains last year. Or sorry, they were rotating captains last year.
Yeah, and then in Toronto, they named their assistant captains. They said they will not be going with a captain to start this year. John Tavares, Patrick Marleau, and Morgan Riley were named assistant captains. So the drama in who's going to be the Leafs captain this year is officially over. You can speak about what Austin Matthews not getting anything there. But in Canuck news, Jim Benning says Brock Besser, his new contract, they're going to hold off on it until the end of this coming season to get a long-term contract done. The Alex Edler situation on if he would waive his no-trade clause was asked, but it looks like they're going to wait to see how the season goes before they approach him. Also on the Canucks captaincy, it looks like they're going to see how training camp goes in the preseason, see who steps up as a leader, and then they'll make their decision on if they'll go with a captain or not. But they're comfortable going in either direction for the season, even though Bo Horvat, you should just give him the captaincy already. But we'll see how things go there.
I think Brock Besser might have something to say about that.
Uh, I still prefer Horvat over Besser, but both really good leaders though. And then on Ben Hutton, I think this is the most intriguing defenseman coming off of last season to see how he's improved from last season. Said he worked a bunch with Claude Giroux over the summer, and he working on his skating, becoming more explosive out of his own end, his edge work, and of course his shot. There, as long as like with Troy Stetcher, that was another big thing for him, working on his upper body and his shot. Because, well, if you look at the offensive production from the Canucks last year, only 21 goals in total from the back end last year, and not a whole lot of points on top of that. The Canucks really need improvement offensively from that back end heading into this year. And lastly, Elias Pettersson will get every chance to play at center and prove that he can play in the top six for the start of preseason and hopefully make the opening night roster.
Oh, it's a lot of news and notes. Thanks for catching us up with all that up to date. So, and finally, we'll touch on last night. We touched on it a little bit with the Humboldt Broncos. Excellent coverage by TSN last night. What are your thoughts on what you saw, and were you able to keep a dry eye?
Oh, I couldn't, especially that ceremony after the game. It was very tough to watch. The game itself was great, especially when Humboldt scored their first goal. Was amazing. One of the returning players, I believe his name was Braden Cameron, number 26. He had an amazing game. Just was probably the best player on the ice from start to finish. But the ceremony where they unveiled the 29 banners for all the guys, yeah, it was pretty emotional, especially seeing for all the guys that passed away, just the birth years. Just guys that are just probably a couple of years younger than me. It sucks. But it was good for the healing process for the community, and just to hear all the guest speakers from one of the parents, from the former president of the team. It was a very, very good night in Humboldt, and hopefully things continue to heal, and we still support Humboldt. And I know on my mask, I still have Humboldt strong sticker on the back of my mask, and it will remain there for as long as I have that mask, and then I'll get a new one if it falls off. But yeah, we're forever with Humboldt.
Yeah, no, well said. I don't think I have too much more to say about it, as it really brings reality back to this great game that we love all across Canada, the U.S., and multiple other countries around the world. Leave us your thoughts about the Erik Karlsson trade or the Tyler Seguin signing, or anything else that you want to talk about with us in regards to hockey. Just remember to like and share or comment on our posts on Facebook or on YouTube. And this is B&B Hockey Talk. We'll be back again tomorrow to bring you another episode. Have a fantastic evening, everyone.